Okay, welcome to Hikes with Dirtbike. I'm Dirtbike Boyfriend. We're in Chester Park. Today my guest is what I would say a budding rock god, a friend, once referred to by Tanner Barsness as my mom, and I've never let go of it. It's me, Mara Lovejoy.
Hello.
All right, so Mara, we were just talking a little bit about how you ended up in Duluth.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell me about like how the first time you ended up in Chester Park? How'd you end up here?
Here, when I moved here, the first place I lived was on 9th Street, 6th and 9th. So it was like 2 blocks away from the other side of the river or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
So I would just like walk to the end of my block and then go down the big steps and then like walk here all the time.
Nice.
Yeah.
Spend much time here still?
A little bit. Like I lived there for like a year-ish, and I would come here a lot, and then I would live like on like the west side, Spirit Valley for a couple years, so I didn't really come here much, but I moved back to this neighborhood last year, so now I come here more often.
Sure.
Mostly with my dog.
What's your dog's name?
Deuces.
Deuces?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Lovely dog.
She's great.
You have your own band, Mara Lovejoy.
Yes.
With Shauna and Clancy.
Yes.
Scene legend, Shauna.
Yes.
And Clancy, who's a craftsman.
Craftsman and like the busiest musician in town. Like
Yeah.
plays fiddle with like I feel like every homegrown he plays like every day with somebody else. It's really, I feel like I always see him like on stage.
Yes,
every
okay.
day.
Now just off onto a tangent.
Yeah.
You play at least guitar and piano.
Yeah.
What else do you play?
That's all I play right now, guitar, piano, and sing. But I've played, like I played drums in a band for a few years, and I've played bass in several bands, as many guitar players often do, because lots of people play guitar and not a lot of people play bass. People are always like, hey, they'll be like, hey, do you want to be in my band? And I'll be like, yeah. And they're like, cool, do you want to play bass? And I'm like, okay, I guess. I'm not like a bass player, but I liked all the bands that I played bass in. I played bass in like kind of like a soul sort of like Motown sort of band called Barry and the Fountains in Chicago.
Okay.
I got really good at bass in that band because I had to. And then I played bass in like a punk band in Chicago called Attaboy with an I for a little bit too. That was a really fun band. I don't drink at all, and so like, which is it's kind of cool because I feel like it's just more common, like in our music scene in general, that like getting wasted isn't so much a part of it. Like in kind of like in the 2010s in Chicago, it's like. It was just, I don't know, like that's what everybody did. Everybody was like getting drunk like at every show all the time, you know? And that's not necessarily like how it goes here. And I think that makes it really doable for me too.
Sure. Yeah. I don't know that I've ever clocked that you don't drink.
Yeah. I just like a few years ago, like it just like stopped being enjoyable. Like it just started being like I would have like one drink and then like feel awful.
Sure.
You know, like I would like get a headache while I was drinking and start feeling like really anxious like while I was drinking. And I was just like, this actually isn't like any fun anymore at all. You know, like I'm getting nothing out of this. So,
Yeah.
So I'll just stop, because I was like, I was like, I'll like stop for a month. And then I was like, like maybe I won't. You know, and like after that month, I still didn't really want to. And then I just kept not wanting to. And now it's like, yeah, it's like, I guess like I like quote, like don't drink. But really it's kind of like I'm just like choosing not to all the time, you know,
sure.
you know, yeah.
Aren't you, do you work as a bartender still?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and like I enjoy doing that. And as much as it's like a job, like I don't mind like tasting things, you know, because like I still like a tasty thing, you know, like I like food and drink a lot, and like I'm very like interested in flavors and how they all work together and stuff. So like it works for me because I just I appreciate the flow, and I appreciate like the culture and like
Sure.
like between like coworkers in like bars and restaurants.
Yeah, all the food trucks that show up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. I work at a restaurant.
Oh, do you
Now?
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So yeah, that was when I was at like Wild State.
Yeah.
But yeah, now I work at like a full service restaurant, which is like, which I like working there more. I feel like I have a lot more self-respect, and like I feel like I'm learning a lot more, and like I appreciate like I serve a lot too, and like I appreciate taking care of people, and like when people are like genuinely grateful and like having a really nice time, and it's like a really special thing for them, you know, to be out to eat, like spending time with people there, then I find that like really, really beautiful.
I mean, you said you're like 34, you've been married and divorced, you moved across the country, whatever, or not
Yeah.
across the country, across the region.
Yeah.
So how did you end up back in school, and how much longer do you have?
Yeah, so I have this upcoming school year, I'll be a senior. So just 1 year for my undergrad, that I'm like
Sure.
applying to grad schools and stuff.
Okay.
And I decided to go back to school. Yeah, like I tried doing school like through my 20s, you know, always music school, and like it never really worked. I was never like in a place like internally and like often externally where I could like make it work, you know, kind of just
Sure.
like a lot of restless energy. But like, so I was always doing these other jobs. Like I was a stagehand, and I worked in urban agriculture for a long time, and like did like nonprofit stuff, you know, and just like all these different things. And I was just like so miserable all the time, you know, like I was just, I hated going to these jobs every day, and like I would just be like the whole time just like thinking about music and just being like, fuck, like I wish this is what I was doing. And like I had kind of like through my 20s too, had like on and off like really pursued music as like a career, or like would not for a while, like, and then kind of like I got to this point where I was like, I want to go to school and like kind of just like try and lock down like a career in like music, doing anything, like teaching, you know, like whatever
Sure.
it is, just like so I can be like going to a place and like talking and being in music world every day. So I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, like let me go to school for that. And like I started, like I've always been super interested in the piano. Like I've always loved it and loved how you can like accompany yourself, and you can like have so much harmony on it all at the same time. And so I was like, okay, cool. Like this is like a great opportunity. I'm gonna start learning piano, because like it's a great instrument to be like a music educator with. You know, it's so flexible, and it's such a good teaching tool. And because like I just love the instrument, and so I started learning piano. And then I practiced for like 3 years, and like had, you know, teachers and stuff, and then like auditioned, and then got into UMD, and then yeah. And so now I'm studying music composition primarily, and then yeah, with like classical piano as like my instrument.
Sure.
Yeah.
So like obviously that has influenced your like songwriting.
Yeah.
You did the forgive me for forgetting the name of it.
No,
but
yeah.
The Chopin inspired piece that you just played at a show last night that I was at.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit, like, does it feel like every piece you do right now is inspired by that stuff, or like there's a little bit of that in it now?
Yeah, like I think, especially because I'm studying composition, it's like I think a lot of the ideas that I've been picking up over the last few years like are filtering into the music. Like, you know, in like writing classical versus like writing pop, like it is two very different things in the way that like I'll like develop things. Like classical, you know, and these are like generalizations, but typically like unfolds over a longer period of time, and pop is like very like boiled down, you know, we're kind of like getting
Sure.
to the point. But like, you know, like something that like I feel like the last like 4 or 5 songs that I've written, like they all have key changes, and like I never used to really do that, but it's like kind of like an idea that I really love is like there's this composer kind of like a little bit before Chopin named Franz Schubert, who was like, he was the first person to kind of like write key changes to to like express a different mood or like a change in like the psychological character of a song. So it's like kind of like before that people would change keys as like a matter of structure. Like, so you would like do something in one key for like however long, and then you change keys, and then you go back to the original key. You know, it's like, it's very structural. And like Schubert was like, okay, like he wrote a lot of songs too. So he'd be like, okay, like the character's feeling this way in the song, and then like something happens and their mood changes, and so now the key changes. So I've been like writing with that idea a lot, being like, okay, like whatever's happening like lyrically, like, you know, maybe we put it in a different key for a different color to express something, to express the changes that are in the song.
Sure. Is that, would you say he is your like unwritten hero of music history? Do you have anyone else?
Yeah, oh gosh, there's so many. I think most of the composers I like more a little bit like later than Chopin and Schubert. Like I like Igor Stravinsky a lot. He's kind of like early 1900. Actually, I don't think he died until the 70s. He lived a really long time. I like kind of like French impressionists a lot. So that's like Claude Debussy and Maurice Ravel and like Eric Satie a little bit. And like, I mean, the cool thing about like the impressionists is that like they were doing stuff in like the late 1800s, early 1900s. And like in the 60s, like 50s, 60s, like jazz writers like Wayne Shorter kind of like picked up on that thread and started using like those harmonies. So then it was showing up in the way jazz was developing. And then like you had people like Joni Mitchell, who was like really influenced by that. And so like there's kind of like this thread of you know, this style of harmony that like you can trace back to like the 1800s and, you know, probably before that, honestly. Sure. You know, but like the way it's kind of like gotten into like jazz and rock and like, you know, other music that I'm into. So yeah, like that, I'd probably, there's a lot of composers I really love for what they do, but like most practically speaking, like I probably like, I'm very into like the Impressionists and like Joni Mitchell, Wayne Shorter, Debussy.
Okay.
Like that. Yeah, yeah.
That's very cool. Oh, I had a thread to go off of there. How about just real quick, more like contemporary people that you are inspired by or you listen to or try to write like?
Yeah, like classical or like pop or like...
Yeah, more pop, more modern.
Yeah. Yeah, like the last couple years, like I've gotten like super into like Mitski and Lana Del Rey, especially for like what they do like lyrically.
I love Lana Del Rey.
I know. Ezra Furman too. I love what she does.
So I didn't want to like, because I feel like Ezra Furman, like another person from Chicago.
Yeah,
you know, your voices are kind of similar in that how you get into yelling and get quiet and stuff like that. Yeah. But yeah, I love Ezra Furman, but I never wanted to compare you to them because I always felt like that was like a no-go zone.
Yeah, I'm like, no, we don't sound anything like each other. Yeah. No, I love what she does. You know, it's like she's, you know, like making music now currently, but it's so rock and roll. It's so rooted in this like, you know, kind of like 60s, 70s, kind of like grunge and glam and everything, you know, and like I think hearing her, you know, her and PJ Harvey too, like hearing these like femme people that make this like really angsty music, you know, like very, very influential to me. Kind of like made me feel like, okay, like I can like be who I am, be like a trans woman. I mean, PJ Harvey's not trans, but that's kind of beside the point. I can be like a trans woman and like, I think to like be feminine and also make this kind of like, this music that kind of like really grinds sometimes, you know?
Go down here real quick.
Yeah. And then it's like kind of like other people like Mitski and Lana Del Rey, like they've kind of like turned me on to like writing lyrics a little bit differently, where like, I feel like they have this very like unapologetic, kind of raw, but still beautiful way of like just saying exactly what they're feeling, even if it's not the things that you're supposed to say.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
So I've been liking that because I feel like a lot of the ways I wrote lyrics before were like, it was definitely very like feelings based, but it was a little bit more like obscure, a little bit more like not saying directly what I'm feeling, or kind of would get into these like big ideas, you know, kind of like very universal, like we're all specks of dust and you know, like all is one kind of shit, you know?
Sure.
And like now I think I've been getting a little bit more granular and being like, this is about like a certain person that I had an experience with, and kind of like figuring out what in there feels like broad and connective, you know?
Real quick,
Yeah.
The show last night, you played a song that you said, hey, I don't know that this is done yet, so I need to like feel it out. I do that all the time. I have to play a new song at a show before I can like decide that it's done.
Sure.
So can you talk a little bit about that? Like why, you know, is it, for me, it's almost like not just the, you know, approval of the people in the crowd, but like there's a part of it that has to be like, if this doesn't resonate with the crowd, then it's like, you know, I got to go a different direction.
Sure, sure.
But yeah, what made you want to play that song last night?
I think like I'll do that, like try things out on stage, because like it takes me, most of the time it takes me a long time to get a song from like kind of like hearing it in my brain to playing it, right? Like, so like that song I played last night, like I kind of like heard that melody like last September. I remember it was like right before Pride Festival, and I was like walking my dog kind of like singing it, you know, and like I didn't know what the song was about, and so I wasn't gonna write it, but it's like it's been kind of like rolling around for almost a year, you know, and like once I started writing it, you know, kind of gets to the point where I'm like, I have to fucking play this. I have been like sitting on this for so long, and I really like it, you know, so it gets to this point where like I just feel like I'm bursting with it. Like I have to do it, you know, like I can't play another show, can't go another minute without doing it.
You've played a great variety of venues, I would say, in Duluth in your relatively short time here. What would you say is your favorite environment you've played in thus far?
Yeah.
Even outside of Duluth.
Yeah. I mean, of course, always love a sweaty basement show. Kind of, you know, that's like a very special feeling that you can't, you know, kind of nothing beats it, right? Feels like home.
Yeah.
But like outside of that, I really loved playing at Zeitgeist. I was surprised by that too.
For Homegrown this year.
Yeah, for Homegrown I played at Zeitgeist, and when, you know, like I got like booked there or whatever, like, you know, they tell you where you're gonna play. At first I was like, shit, like I don't want to play, you know, like the lighting's like kind of just like on. It's like a theater. People are sitting down. Like,
Sure.
I don't know, you know, is it gonna like mess with the vibe? But then like, you know, after being in there, and it was really cool because it was like Sunday, so it was like one of the only things going on. So it was like pretty packed, and I think because it was a theater, like it felt so intimate. You know, it was like you know, it's funny like how much like our environment like influences our behavior, because like, you know, if you're at like a club or like a normal venue or whatever, it's like you're standing up and you're like talking, you know, but I think because it was a theater, like no one was saying anything. So like in between songs, it was like dead silent, and I was like, and I could like see everybody, you know, I could look around because it's like, you know, like tiered seating or whatever. I could like see like everyone's face, which I really love to like make eye contact and look at people and like see who's in the crowd when I'm playing. So I think, yeah, playing there and having this sort of like theatrical setting was like, I loved doing that so much.
Sure. That's great. Okay, well, how about, what are you know, looking forward to coming up? What do you got right now? I know obviously you're always writing songs, but, you know, new stuff with Roadside, new stuff with your own band?
Yeah, new stuff with my own band. We were just talking about recording an album, like a new album, kind of like next spring-ish.
Sure.
So that's like a little bit off. We're doing a little tour at the end of October, which I think will actually just be 2 shows in Chicago.
Hey, that's still a tour.
No, yeah, it's great. Yeah,
2 shows anywhere is a tour.
Yeah, no, totally. So I'm really excited about that, because it'll be fun. I'll be super excited to go back to Chicago, where I used to live, and like play.
Have you
play this
visited there
music.
much since you left?
I was there with Roadside like earlier this summer. We were, you know, we kind of just like played a show, and we walked around a little bit, which was cool. I went and visited there for like a few days last summer.
Sure.
Kind of just like for little like bits and bobs, like at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so excited about that.
Playing Pride, right?
Yeah, playing Pride, playing the art show that Cherry's throwing
yeah,
at Prove the day before.
What is it called? The gayest art show?
The gayest art show ever.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm proud to be playing that. Playing a show that's like going to be a fundraiser for Friends of Evan Fund.
Yeah.
A deep cut, so that's in September. That Out Front, Minnesota.
Friends of Evan is a fantastic fund that funds haircuts for trans folks who can't afford it.
Yeah, gender affirming haircuts. Yeah, and I so love that and feel very like connected to it. Like when I like my first like gender affirming haircuts were at Deep Cuts, and it's where I got my hair cut for a long time.
yeah.
And so like I feel, you know, like thank God, like moving here and being gay and being like, where the fuck am I gonna get my hair cut?
Who cut your current hair?
This was by Gala.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Gala.
Yes. All right. Well, thanks for walking with me, Mara. Appreciate you always.
Yeah.
And thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me on.